everyone. So in this video today, we're going to be hearing from my really good friend Aaina about what it is to be a pharmacovigilance specialist and what is her career history, what are the prospects, and just what the day-to-day life is like, and anything additional that Aaina would like to share with you guys today. So let's get started. And again, this is a really exciting career in pharmacovigilance. So Aaina, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, I'm really excited to talk about my educational history and my work history. So I'll be going through that in the next few slides.
All right, thanks guys.
Hi everyone, my name is Aaina, and today I'll be going over what a career in pharmacovigilance is. So pharmacovigilance is a department within the pharmaceutical industry. So first, an overview of the pharmaceutical industry. It discovers, develops, and markets medications to patients. They can produce generic or brand name medicines or devices. They can either be a public or a private organization. And there are a variety of laws and regulations that govern the testing, safety, and marketing of these drugs and devices. Then going over what exactly is a drug. So it's any substance that interacts in the body to bring about a change in biological function. These drugs treat, cure, and manage the disease. The FDA regulates these drugs and the drug development process. It also regulates food, so some substances can be considered a drug and a food, such as glucose, which is sugar, salt, caffeine, and ethanol. So the drug development process is broken down into 4 phases. First is the discovery phase, then preclinical, clinical, and marketing. So the discovery phase is the process of developing the drug, and you first need to identify a drug target. So this drug target is any molecule within the body. It's most likely a protein that is associated with the disease. So thousands of drugs are synthesized and tested before a prototype drug is produced. This prototype drug then moves into the preclinical phase, and its activity is tested in a test tube or a cell culture. It also goes through animal testing to determine its toxicity, its therapeutic index, meaning at what dose range is it considered the safest, and its margin of safety. After this phase, an IND, which stands for Investigational New Drug Application, is submitted to the FDA so that human trials can begin. So this IND application consists of data from preclinical phases, from the animal studies. It goes over how the drug is manufactured and what the drug is composed of. After this phase is the clinical trials phase. So this phase is composed of 3 parts. First is phase 1, which includes a small number, about 20 to 100 healthy volunteers. This phase takes about a year, and in this phase, they are determining what is a safe dose range for humans and what is the pharmacokinetics of the drug. So pharmacokinetics means how a drug is absorbed, metabolized, and eliminated in the body. After this phase, it moves into phase 2, which involves 100 to 200 volunteers with the disease. It takes about 2 years, and here they're trying to determine the efficacy or how well the drug works in targeting the disease. They compare the drug to a placebo. A placebo is something like a sugar pill. It looks like the drug. It looks like the drug, but it has no actual effect. So they compare the investigative drug to either a placebo drug, or they compare the investigative drug to a previously known effective treatment. At this point, you'll see a lot more side effects, and so there's a high failure rate. So only about 30% of clinical trials will pass this phase. If it passes this phase, it moves on to phase 3. So this involves thousands of volunteers with the disease. This phase takes about 5 years to complete, and here the goal is to confirm the efficacy of the drug in a larger population. So this is a visual representation of the 3 phases. It goes through how many participants are in each trial, what is the goal of each phase, how many years it takes, and how much money is invested into each phase. So after the clinical trial phase, you will submit an NDA, which stands for New Drug Application. This application is submitted to the FDA, which details all the preclinical and clinical data of the investigative drug. And how fast the FDA reviews and approves your application depends on how serious the disease is. If it's a life-threatening condition, there's an expedited approval process. And finally, in phase 4, the drug is ready to be marketed to the public. The pharmaceutical company, though, still needs to monitor the adverse effects that show up in this phase. Because it's being used in a large population, rare side effects can begin to show up, or any long-term side effects can begin to show up. So overall, the drug development process can take anywhere from 10 to 15 years and billions of dollars. So this is an image summarizing the entire drug approval process, the 4 phases, and how many years each phase takes. So I wanted to just look at COVID vaccine because it's such a hot topic right now. When COVID first came about, it was a very serious and life-threatening disease, and so there wasn't much time to develop and approve a possible treatment. Vaccines use an mRNA technology, and because this technology already existed, scientists just had to sequence the COVID virus. Once they had the sequence of the virus, it only took 3 days for them to create the vaccine. After that, the clinical trial phases 1, 2, and 3 were able to happen simultaneously. And once it was marketed, scientists were able to monitor any adverse effects that patients were having using an app called vSafe. So now that we had an overview of the pharmaceutical industry, I wanted to particularly look at pharmacovigilance, which is a department within the pharmaceutical industry and the department that I work in. So pharmacovigilance, as defined by the WHO, is the activities relating to understanding and preventing adverse effects. This phase is most important in the post-marketing phase. This is when, because the drug is being used in a large population, you'll begin to see real-world adverse effects. These adverse effects are submitted to a pharmaceutical company or a CRO in the form of a spontaneous report, such as a MedWatch, and these reports are also called signals. So these signals then indicate that there's a problem with the drug, and these signals then need to be assessed for how severe they are, their causality, meaning is the adverse event related to the drug, to the disease, or a third factor, and the safety risk of the drug. So this MedWatch report that I was talking about, it's an online reporting form. This is what it looks like. It's available through the FDA website, and there's a separate form for health professionals to fill out, and then a separate form for patients to fill out. So this is some key topics in pharmacovigilance, and just an overview of what the department does as a whole. So you can look at signal management, which are those adverse effects, the risk management, so how, if those adverse effects cannot be managed, what the risk and benefit ratio of them, individual case safety reports, such as those MedWatch reports. There's also audits and inspections that happen within the department. MEDRA, which is the medical coding dictionary for those adverse reactions. An aggregate report, which is like a summary of all previous adverse events. So employees in this department usually have a minimum of a bachelor's degree in the health sciences. They may also be healthcare professionals such as nurses, doctors, and pharmacists. They can work at a sponsor company or a pharmaceutical company who creates the new drug and sponsors the study. They can work at a contract research organization such as a CRO, which manages the clinical trials and they serve as the middleman between the sponsor and the site. Or they can work at a site which actually does the testing on animals and humans. So now taking a look into my personal work history, I graduated with a bachelor's in biological sciences from Rutgers, and I got my first job in the pharmacovigilance department at a CRO. So like any CRO, the site first fills out a case report form detailing the patient's adverse reaction to the drug. That form is then sent to the CRO. The CRO inputs it into a safety database. We used something called Argus. The medical reviewer will then verify the severity, relatedness, and causality of the event. If it is an unexpected event, meaning it's not consistent with the investigator's brochure, the investigator's brochure is a document that is sent to all sites before the trial starts, detailing what are some of the expected adverse reactions. If there is an unexpected adverse reaction, that information is sent to other sites, health authorities, and the ethics committee. The ethics committee ensures the ethics of a trial. So after working there for 4 years, I then transferred to a pharmaceutical company, and the pharmaceutical company oversees the case processing work of a CRO. In this company, we use a different database called Aaina G, and here I'm involved with making case corrections in that database and completing monthly metrics to make sure that everything is being submitted on time and accurately to health authorities. So looking at a career in PV, you can either lean towards line management or in a more technical direction, which means signal detection or risk management. So some of the entry-level positions focus on case processing work. So these would be roles like a drug safety associate or a coordinator. After 2 or 3 years of experience, you can transition into a drug safety scientist role, which is involved with more narrative writing, medical coding using the Metro Dictionary. And then you can become a drug safety medical writer who puts together these aggregate reports. And then after 8 years of experience, you can become a manager or a director who oversees the entire team. Now looking into the future of PV, so it's a very rewarding career. It plays a vital role in ensuring patient safety. There's billions of dollars that are poured into the pharmaceutical industry. With more diseases, there's more funding for clinical trials, and so there will be definite growth of the industry and roles in the future. Here I want to thank you all for listening to this presentation. And I hope this has been informative in what a career in the pharmaceutical industry and specifically pharmacovigilance is. Thank you very much.